Welcome into the Hard Count. It is Thursday, April 10th, 2025. The Hard Count presented now by Culver's. The transfer portal about to open up, but Culver's, they're not hitting the portal looking for anything. The roster is stacked. Home of the Butterburger, fresh frozen custard, Wisconsin cheese curds. They're ready to make a run at this thing. So Culver's bringing you the Hard Count today. We appreciate them. We appreciate y'all. We got a great show lined up, man. It's a spring game preview prediction extravaganza. We got Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel joining the show here in a matter of minutes. So glad to have y'all a part of this. I hesitate to do this because it's not what you're here for, but I want to make sure y'all know before we jump into the rest of the spring college football season, so grateful for y'all and so freaking pumped to do this for a living. And we get to do it for a living because y'all allow us to, man. This was always something we wanted to do, and we get a lot of people that hit us up from this side of things in the media world and say, hey, why don't you do more hot takes? Why don't you guys try to create some controversy? It's like, man, we respect this game too much. We love this game too much. And quite frankly, we worked too hard to be able to talk about this game for a living. So we appreciate y'all making this show what it is. Appreciate y'all being a part of this thing. Subscribe if you haven't already. Let's get the previews and predictions started, though, with a banger. When you win the national championship, the rule on this show is you get to go first. So Ohio State, they got their spring game on the Big Ten Network, noon Eastern on Saturday. We're all watching the quarterback battle, right? All of us. It's Julian Sayin, Lincoln Keenholz, Tavian St. Clair. Maybe you sprinkle him into the equation a little bit, but I think we all understand it's probably going to be a two-horse race until further notice. The quarterback battle at Ohio State, the way you assess it, for my money, is kind of like how you assess catering for your wedding or a party. A lot of these different catering places, they have like a set menu. And so what you're trying to do is to figure out, hey, we like this entree. We don't love this side. So is it worth taking the entree if we don't love the side? We love the steak. Potatoes, could take it or leave it. Lincoln Keenholz. How much are we sacrificing with him as a passer? We love the mobility and what he can do as a playmaker, but do we want to put him in as our starting quarterback because we still got to get the ball to Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, all that and the other. I'm assessing that in the spring game. How does he look as a passer? Now, I don't know what Ohio State's going to do when it comes to making quarterbacks live or not live. In a previous practice, they made quarterbacks live. I'd be very surprised if that was the case in the spring game. But the same conversation can be said for Julian Sayin. Dude's got a rocket launcher for an arm. Well, what is he from a mobility standpoint? Does he leave a little bit to be desired there? And how much of a setback is that if you're trying to go repeat as a national champion in Columbus? Something to watch for. But to me, a lot of this, when you talk about Ohio State, it's not just can you run the offense. I want to see the wow plays. We got time to get everything together and to have the offense be a little more cohesive when we get to fall camp. I want to see the wow plays from both those cats when they light it up here this upcoming Saturday. Now, the wide receiver room, nobody's questioning what they have there. Sure, you lose Emeka Egbuka, but this is kind of the next evolution of this wide receiver room. Brian Hartline now going to be the play caller for you. So you would think, hey, coach, you coach a certain position. You're now calling plays. We're maybe going to feed that position a little bit more than we already were. Food for thought. I just want some sweet propaganda, man. Is that too much to ask for? Like, I don't question if Carnell Tate's going to be a dude. I just want to see it a little bit in the spring game. I don't question Brandon Ennis, Smiling Graham, who's, I'll just say this, wearing a similar jersey number, similar movements to a one Garrett Wilson. I'll just leave it at that. These dudes could have all gone anywhere out of high school. All of them will be NFL players. I would just love to see, like I said, some propaganda, something to get excited about, some flash plays, some splash plays, because honestly now you do lose 2,000 yards of rushing in that backfield. It's not me questioning what you have in that backfield here in 2025, but I would say if there was ever a situation where you're going to have to lean a little bit more on your receiving core, now might be the time. Now, if you didn't follow the recruiting rankings, you would think Ohio State was just manufacturing these dudes in a lab in Columbus. The five-star freshman we're going to get a chance to see here, I am following that very closely. Speaking of receivers, five-star receiver, 6'4", Quincy Porter was the first freshman of the group, the entire freshman group, that is, to lose a black stripe. That's saying something because of how highly they've talked about A1 Devin Sanchez. Now, I don't know how much Quincy Porter will or won't play in 2025. I think we'll get a gauge for maybe where he stands right now on the depth chart based on who he's rolling with during the spring game. I just want to see how much he can add to this room. How much can he add to this group? What we say a lot about freshmen in this time of year is, at best, they can help you on Saturdays. At worst, there's some depth. Now, we all know if you're a receiver in the Ohio State room, you're a dude. Quincy Porter, I don't think anyone's questioning if he's a dude. I'm just curious to see how far along is he. In that same vein, Devin Sanchez, who I mentioned a second ago, also a five-star cornerback. He's gotten a ton of buzz this spring. whenever you talk to folks close to Columbus, he's one of the first names that comes up as a guy that's like he's really popping during spring practice. I want to see how he looks against the best receiver room in the country, because we're all saying he's a guy that could potentially start for Ohio State when Dave and St. Ignosin and Jermaine Matthews just exist, and he might start. Okay, he must be a dude. I'm going to get a chance to see how much of a dude he really is against Jeremiah Smith and all those guys that I mentioned previously that will eventually be Sunday players. So a really good litmus test for him. How about that, dude? You're a true freshman, show up playing college football, and your first spring game is against the best player in college football in Jeremiah Smith. Talk about iron sharpening iron. Now, Tavian St. Clair, another high-profile player for them, quarterback. Just a little peek at the future. When you talk about what he's going to be at Ohio State, he gets some Justin Fields comps. Now, it's extremely lofty comps for a guy that hasn't played a snap of college football just yet. But if you're getting compared to Justin Fields and you've been on campus for a cup of coffee and still figuring out where you like to eat in Columbus, you have my attention. So I'd love to see a little bit of flash from him. Again, I'd be wildly surprised if he started for Ohio State. I think that's kind of the sentiment across the board. But to have that kind of buzz should be taken note of, is all I'm going to say there. Now, the defense is tricky to evaluate, especially during a spring game, because if it's anything like last year's spring game for Ohio State, there's going to be a quick whistle. It'll be a lot of thud tempo, meaning we're just wrapping guys up, not taking them to the ground, especially against the ones. But it's a new era for Ohio State on the defense side of the football. Matt Patricia now calling the defense. And this is a bit of an unquantifiable to try and track during a spring game, but I think there's something to it. I think that teams take on the persona of their coach. I think that sides of the football take on the persona of their coordinator. I mean, Brent Venables at Clemson was a great example of this. Dude's a psychopath. Those teams at Clemson, what were they? Relentless, high energy, intense, a lot like Brent Venables. Last year for Ohio State, Jim Knowles running the show. Kind of a cerebral approach, very much so a polished approach. Matt Patricia, what's his defense going to be like? I don't think we get a total answer for that in the spring game, but I want to take a temperature. Big temperature taking for us here on the defense side of the football, across the board, across the country here, when it comes to what we're going to see this Saturday. In addition to that, I want to see how different the one defensive line looks from the two defensive line. Because in the Big Ten, dude, you got to have the big boys up front. It's no secret. That was, quite frankly, what Ohio State had that allowed them to make a run that they went on at the end of last season. The Jack Sawyer, JD Tuimoloau, they came alive, and then once they were off the field, there was no real drop-off. CJ Hicks has been moved to edge, been getting great reviews so far out of spring. Obviously, you're not going to hit the quarterback. I like to see a little bit of little club and rip from the guy, a little nice get off on the edge, just something to see, something to make you feel good about what you have on the edge going into fall camp. Now, some predictions for this spring game. That's the fun part about this thing. Now, just giving you a preview, going to give you a full-on prediction. Got two of them. One, I think James Peoples, your running back that I expect to kind of be your home run hitter here in 2025. I think he flashes a little bit. I think you see something from him. Not to make you forget Travion Henderson or Quinshon Judkins, but I think he does some good things. The big storyline coming out, though, when you crack open the Hard Count Herald on Monday morning, you're saying it's a battle. All right? Peep the spelling there. Sayin. You're saying it's a battle. I think Keenholz and Julian Sayin both strut their stuff a little bit, man. I don't think we have a spring game where we leave and say, man, that's definitely Julian Sayin's job. That's definitely Lincoln Keenholz's job. I think as an Ohio State fan, you have this weird back and forth internally of, well, Julian Sayin looked great, but Lincoln Keenholz looked great. Well, we don't know who our quarterback is, but shoot, we got two guys that can spin it, that can move the offense for us. I'm really, really intrigued to see how they look in the spring game, but again, my prediction, I think both guys ball out, and as an Ohio State fan, you're like, great, champagne problems. Let either one of those dudes play. And Cato and I talked about it on a previous show. When you have an intense quarterback battle like Ohio State does in the situation they're coming off of a national championship, you're trying to root out complacency in itself. You're trying to create some urgency for your team. Not that you need urgency if you're at Ohio State, but off a national title, you're trying to continue to turn that intensity volume, that intensity knob up. Having two dudes going back and forth, that's going to raise the intensity level, I think, of the entire team, because you don't want to be the guy that drops that dime from Julian Sayin or misses the block where Lincoln Keenholz could have made a big play downfield and hurts him in the quarterback race. So all in all, I think both guys have a good day. Not super hot takey there for you. We don't apologize for it, but all things considered, the Ohio State spring game will be a movie. We'll be tuned in. We'll give you a reaction afterwards, but excited to hear from y'all and your thoughts on the Ohio State spring game. So we got some more spring games to preview and predict here. We got Bama, we got Georgia, we got Auburn, we got Notre Dame. We got a lot to get to here, but we had the privilege of sitting down with Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel. Their spring game is on Saturday. The preview for that is already out on the On3 YouTube channel, so go check that out. But got to ask him about why have a spring game, progress from Nico, what he's seeing from the receiver room, all that. And also, turns out his daughter's an absolute stick on the golf course. So check it out. Here's our conversation with Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel. So, Coach, this time of the year, people like us get to sit behind a microphone and do a lot of these rankings. I want to get your take on this. There's a lot of quarterbacks in the SEC that are now head coaches between yourself, Billy Napier, Coach Sark. Where are you ranking yourself in that group?
Yeah, we'll find out next fall when we go kick off. Preseason rankings are for guys that sit behind the mic like you and got to type something on a piece of paper. We're just excited about this journey with this football team. Got some youth on our football team that's got to grow up quickly, and they've been great here the early part of our off season, been good during spring ball, and now it's about continued growth as we get closer to kickoff.
We were talking before the show. I mean, in terms of like actual playing careers, like across the country, probably you and Coach Prime. I mean, again, that's for us on this side, but that's probably where we'd put you there. So we got you number one in that group, Coach. But speaking of spring football,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, hey, absolutely. But when you speaking of spring football, spring game this Saturday, a lot of people canceling their spring game. What went into that decision for you to actually have a spring game in Neyland?
Yeah, it's another opportunity for our football team to play in a game day like setting, and first one that will have a big crowd out. I know Vol Nation will be excited to get into the stadium. For us, it's really important that our young guys. I said it earlier, but they can't play young when we get to the fall. And part of the journey of getting those guys ready for their first opportunity of kickoff, accelerating the urgency, playing in front of a live crowd is important. And so that's why we're going to continue to do it. And looking forward to this Saturday and seeing our fans inside of Neyland.
We've been enjoying all the social media clips, Coach, from practice that your team's putting out. We see Nico out there with the GoPro. What's been the biggest jump for him from last spring to this spring in your mind?
Yeah, I just think, year one, he's a guy that pushed extremely hard, played really well throughout the course of the season. There's some things that, he knew he had to improve upon, but some things that the guys around him, we got to be better at too. And complete control and command, the understanding of protections, run checks, whatever it might be. And then, the fundamental play within the scope of the pocket to be consistently accurate, be on time with the football, be a part of us operating at the level that we're capable of. And he's had great focus and energy, has done a great job of just continuing to grow throughout the course of this offseason.
And one thing we were impressed with, Coach, last year, the playoff game against Ohio State, bunch of carries, and he's out there with just like an extra, like almost edge to him. We're watching the playoff game, like, man, this guy's a little extra dog in him than I think maybe we even knew going into that game. Is that something you've seen him even step into more this spring as he's going into like his second year as a starter?
I think for him, ownership and leadership are two things that are a part of growing as a player at the quarterback position for sure. He's an elite competitor. Doesn't mean that it's always perfect. It never is for anybody when you step between the white lines. But I love his demeanor, his ability to be resilient and to continue to fight. You saw that. You mentioned it during the course of the playoff game. But he showcased that during the course of the year too.
And the defense, Coach, I mean, just since you've gotten there, it's continued to trend upward. Last year, it's a top 5 unit in America. What, in your mind, is the next step for that side of the football under Coach Banks?
Yeah, standard is to be a championship defense. And, within the scope of what we're doing schematically, playing with great fundamentals and technique. But the number one thing is you got to play harder for longer and learning how to play, from the snap to the whistle. And, the standard here is to be elite on the defensive side of the ball. And there's some hurdles that as a program we had to overcome when we first took this job. We never used anything as an excuse. But I think, as we've been able to get closer to a full roster and be at a full roster this year, a huge part of that is the depth and development of our roster. And Coach Banks and our defensive staff have done an elite job.
You mentioned, adapting since you've gotten the job on defense, and everyone who's watched Tennessee football since you've been the head man in Knoxville is able to see that. What's been the latest adaptation you're trying to attack here now is moving to the 12-team playoff, another year in that, and the SEC continuing to evolve with the scheduling and all those things. What's the next thing that you're attacking on that side of things?
Yeah, the evolution and the changes in college football have certainly been consistent since we've been here at Tennessee, and we've done a great job of trying to have a plan and navigate that space, and then being able to adjust during the course of it as needed. In this conference, you're going to play an elite schedule every single year. You look at our 25 schedule, we know that the quality of opponents that we're going to see week in and week out. And so you got to be ready to play at a championship level right from the start. And, just as a program, we got to continue to build on that, build our connection, and making sure that we're ready to put ourselves in the best position when we get to kick off in the fall.
I think a lot of people, Coach, are excited to see what y'all have at receiver this year, from Mike Matthews to Chris Brazzell, some of the young bucks. Who, in your mind, has stood out this spring? A couple of guys that you've been watching closely and you're really pleased with them so far.
Yeah, the guys you just mentioned, and Braylon Staley as well as a guy that's going into year two. Those guys have had great work ethic, real understanding of what we're doing. They've been highly competitive, and as we've gotten out on the grass during the course of spring ball, those guys have been consistent in making plays. And we got to continue to grow before we get to training camp. But I really like the mentality and the playmaking ability that we have inside of that room.
I think a lot of people, too, I mentioned the receiver room. A lot of people are also excited about a 5-star true freshman, David Sanders, still going through his first spring. But what have you been pleased with him so far through a few practices?
Yeah, his ability to learn it, earn it, and continue to grow as a player. We've seen him take steps every single day. The offensive line in general is a unit that, we have some turnover, and we got some young guys that have real opportunity to go take some snaps. We got to find a way to continue to increase the competitiveness of that group. And ultimately, when we get to kickoff, those guys all operating as one.
So, Coach, before the interview, I was talking to some people, close to Tennessee, and asking them, like, hey, does Coach do anything outside of football we can ask him about to kind of, break the ice, or just kind of get your take on it? Like, no, he's pretty much just football. So I'm asking you, is there anything outside of football that you do, or is it just ball all the time, all day, every day?
Man, in today's landscape, it's ball almost every part of the day. When I'm not doing ball, I'm with my kids. I got a son that's football, basketball, baseball, into everything, and got a daughter that's really good out on the golf course. So when I get time off, I'll go play with her. My game is not as good as hers, and everybody at the country club will attest to that. I promise you.
That's awesome, though. So she's golfing, and you guys are going, like, playing a little scramble. Or you going head up? Like, how does that work?
We'll go play, typically in late spring, try to get some rounds in with her. And then certainly during the month of July, we'll go play some golf at night. And she's usually beating the brakes off of me, to say the least.
That's awesome. That's big time, playing some golf with a daughter. So, Coach, I just actually had a baby, I guess, almost 5 months ago now. Any parenting advice? I'm a girl dad now, so you having a daughter, myself having a daughter. Any parenting advice on that side that I can glean from you?
Man, nothing better than being a girl dad. And I don't know, it goes quick. As I said, my daughter's a junior. It's crazy how fast time operates. My best words of wisdom to you are you take your wife's lead and operate as such.
Yeah, she's definitely our head coach. But yeah, it's definitely it's a no huddle operation. That's definitely the truth when it comes to keeping track of the time. Coach, right. Last question for you here. How fun is this for you? Because everyone that watches you on the sideline is like, this guy is enjoying the heck out of being the head coach of Tennessee. Put that into words, like the experience of being the head coach of Knoxville and where you're all at right now in the landscape of the SEC and college football.
Yeah, dream come true to be at a historic program with an unbelievable fan base. to have an administration that's like-minded, that's in sync. But the best part of my day is when the players come in here every single day. We got a great group that's accountable, that's connected, that cares about the people around them. And at the end of the day, we have a lot of fun going and competing when we're inside of this building today, and live it as a true family. We spend time outside of the game too. And this is college football as good as it gets. So fortunate to be here. It's been a lot of fun continuing to build on the tradition of Tennessee football.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you making some time amidst the madness that is college football right now in the spring game Saturday. We're excited to watch y'all get after it here in the spring and watch y'all get after it in the fall. Appreciate you.
I appreciate it. Go Big Orange.
Great stuff from Coach Heupel there, man. I'm excited to get the intel out of Knoxville. Excited to hear how Nico looks and excited to hear if some receivers can make some plays there this spring game. Get us feeling good heading into summer 1, summer 2, and ultimately fall camp. Now, Alabama, they're going to have their spring game. We're all watching the quarterback battle. Y'all notice a lot of good quarterback battles across college football, man. But Alabama, you got Ty Simpson, you got Keelan Russell, you got Austin Mack. It's interesting when you juxtapose what this year is supposed to be for Alabama offensively based on what they were last year with Jalen Milroe. Because I've been very adamant. I thought Jalen Milroe would be a lot better within that system. I think Jalen Milroe is still a good football player. I don't think he was the right quarterback for that Kalen DeBoer offense. Now with Ryan Grubb as the OC, the priority will be further emphasized, can we throw the football downfield? It's kind of like after you have a relationship that doesn't work out, whether it's you or them, you go look for, in some ways, one of your priorities is, okay, what was one of the number one things that made that relationship not work? What was one of the number one things last year for Alabama that made the offense not work? For my money, it was the consistency downfield for Jalen Milroe. You weren't able to unlock that. So I want to see in this spring game, man, who's able to push the ball downfield most effectively. Now, for Ty Simpson, I need some Groundhog Day kind of vibes from him. Because we've heard all spring, he's been the most consistent. He had the best scrimmage as of late. He looked like an SEC starting quarterback. I need to hear that again. Because good quarterbacks in college football, especially the SEC, they're consistent. You're not worried about what they are when they walk into the swamp or they walk into Death Valley or whatever it ends up being. Like, you know you're getting the same cat every single week. Now, for Ty Simpson, am I getting the same cat every single spring practice? Which you were in practice 8 is awesome. Would argue in practice 15. I don't question if he has the chops quite as much based on the intel. I question, can we be consistent here? Can we be consistent? That's what I want to see from Ty Simpson, in addition to pushing the ball downfield. Now, Keelan Russell, I'm just fired up to see how far along he is, because he is the future in Tuscaloosa. Do not get it twisted. He is your guy that you get excited about when you talk about 2026 and 2027 and beyond. I happen to believe that. Now, is he going to be the starter then? Remains to be seen, but I want to see how many early enrollee mistakes the guy makes. Like, he's been on campus. We keep saying it. I'm like, he's still figuring out college life in general. He was supposed to be going to prom right now, which is everyone's favorite line to throw out during spring practice. But, I mean, honestly, it's the truth. Do we see him play college football, or do we see him play high school football in the college football setting, which ultimately turns into some interceptions, some poor decisions? Guy's got all the arm talent in the world. Like, he's going to be special. In addition to that, I'm really curious to see how the staff views him. A little bit of rep science here is what we're going to try and evaluate. I don't know how much we'll get from the Alabama staff in terms of like a clear 1s and 2s and 3s, but do we see Keelan Russell running mostly with the 2s and 3s, or is it like, hey, Keelan Russell got his fair share of reps with the 1s? That'll tell us, I think, what the staff thinks about him right now coming out of spring practice. Not going to say it's the way this thing is, for the rest of time until the season, but just kind of a good progress report on the guy in terms of how far he is in that system. Now, Austin Mack, do something, baby. Do something. That's all I'm asking. We picked you before spring practice started to win the job. I don't think the job is locked up by Ty Simpson just yet, but I do think if you want to win this job, A-Day would be a nice place to make your mark, make a statement here. And I'll say this too. I think he wants to do it for himself. I really do. But Austin Mack, do it for us on this show, dude. We believe in you, man. We've been rooting for you. Cato and I have been in your corner, dude. I got a family depending on us here to make some predictions here and make good on some predictions. So Austin Mack, would love to see him ball out. Love to see some flash throws. Love to see us leave the spring game and say, you know what, Austin Mack, dude. Austin Mack, he put himself back in the contention in a different way. He made up some ground on Ty Simpson. I'd love to hear that around Austin Mack, but obviously may the best player win, may the best player play, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly how Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb feel as well. The bottom line is the wide receiver room is far too talented to have a rerun of last year. Far too talented. We talk about Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard. Like, we mention those names all the time. But, I mean, I think Jalen Mbakwe will factor in some extent. I think Lazier Brooks will factor in some extent. Isaiah Horton, I think, is going to be a dog for you here in 2025. I think that when you talk about this room in the spring game, you see just a little pop there. I don't think it's a thing where you go for 500 yards through the air, but I do think it's a thing where, wow, hey, that looks kind of reminiscent of what some of those older Bama receiver rooms used to look like. Now, I'm not saying they got 3 first-round draft picks in there, but I do think that there's a lot more horsepower to this whole system offensively. I want to see them rev the engine a little bit. All I'm asking. I don't think that's too much. What does the run game look like? It's tough to gauge the run game in the spring game because there's not like a tremendous amount of physicality like we've said already throughout the show. But I do think that there's some polls to be taken as to how smash-mouth Bama is here in 25. Because we think about the old Washington offense where Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb were last together that played for a national championship. And we think about the receiver room. We think about Michael Penix, and that's all fair. Y'all, they still had an 1,100-yard rusher on that team. They still made a priority to get north and south. Is there a flavor of that in the spring game? Because I think that's probably what modern college football requires. It's great to be able to air it out and to make teams pay down the field, but at some point in time, you're going to have to be able to fight multiple styles. At some point in time, you're going to run into a game where it's bad weather, you can't throw the ball downfield, and you got to go get your 150 on the ground and win a 17-10 kind of game. Does Bama have that in the bag? And if they do we get a little peek at it here during the A-Day? I'm excited to see. Defensively, I just want to see the temp turned up a little bit. I want to see the pads popping. I want to see, this is a throwback here. For those of y'all that follow all the Bama accounts on social media, you would watch a Bama blowout and see people tweeting something like, Joyless Murder Ball is in full effect here in Tuscaloosa. Murder Ball this, Murder Ball that. I want to see a little bit of just like diet Murder Ball in the spring game. Let's not hurt anybody. Like Murder Ball light, would that be too much to see? Just show me the pads are popping. Show me there's that same intensity on defense that Bama's had historically because they got a lot of talent. That secondary is loaded. Some young bucks we'll get to see in this spring game, hopefully make some plays. But I want to see the attitude because in a spring game, we keep saying this, but I think it's just so important to drive this point home. Notice how we're not talking all that much about any of these teams having great defensive line play or elite offensive line play. Why? Because you're probably not, going to just go full tilt against your teammate. You're probably going to have a certain degree of let up because you're trying to keep everybody healthy, and it is, after all, practice 15. But you can tell by the way people get to the football the kind of attitude the defense has. I think they have that internally. I want to see 2.0 in this spring game. So predictions here. I think the wide receivers are the story of the day. I think Isaiah Horton is a name that most Bama fans are probably familiar with by way of the portal and what he has been. I've heard he's been lighting it up during spring practice. I think that continues in this game. And I think you leave the spring game as a Bama fan saying, whoa, okay, I don't know how you cover all of them. I don't know how you cover Williams, Bernard, Isaiah Horton, Brooks. Like, I don't know how you check all those guys. We got to have a quarterback to get it to them, but if that's the room, dude, okay. Like, God bless whoever we line up against. So the A-Day should be a lot of fun. Really, really excited about the intel. Bama Online, all the coverage, all the notes. Get a membership over there so you don't miss a thing around Alabama. But we'll keep it Iron Bowl centric here. Talk some Alabama spring game preview and predictions. What's the preview and predictions we have here for Auburn spring game? Quarterbacks are a massive storyline. It's very obvious now there's only 2 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster currently, Jackson Arnold and Deuce Knight. Let's start with Jackson Arnold. How in rhythm does he look? How comfortable does he look? Because I think last year, if you were Auburn, you saw there were plays to be had. Like, how many times did you wake up on a Sunday morning and get to church and talk to your buddy and say, man, there were plays out there, weren't there? Man, if we could just have this happen, if we could just hit this block, hit this pass, if Peyton Thorne could just do this, it felt like you were just driving sticks so much. Like, Auburn yards per play was great. It was upper tier in America. However, you weren't able to maximize your yards per play numbers because you'd have a turnover here, a turnover. Like, Auburn turned it over a ton last season. You were driving stick all the time. Why? I think a lot of that was you just were never quite as smooth as you needed to be at quarterback. Jackson Arnold, one of the things they like about him, one of the reports on him from spring practice is, dude's a ball player. He operates well in the gray area. He's got a little bit of some gunslinger to him. Gunslingers are usually on the smoother side if you're talking about genres of quarterbacks. How comfortable does he look in the Hugh Freeze offense 14 and a half practices in? I'd love to see him just be in rhythm, be on time. The gunslinger stuff will happen when we get to the fall, But just to be able to execute the base stuff, that's something that I want to see from Jackson Arnold here as he gets rolling in the Auburn chapter of his college football career. Now, I want to see Deuce Knight open it up, bro. That's what I want to see. I don't have a ton of reservations around Jackson Arnold starting a quarterback. If you're Deuce Knight, man, this is your chance to make a statement to the staff. You got to play me. You got to find a role for me because I'm not sitting on the bench here. If I am who you think I am, if I am the 5-star that you've recruited me to be, I'm not staying here for 4 years, brother. I got 3 years for you. Might as well use them. Red shirt, go ahead and keep it. Let me ball. I'd love to see him just cut it loose. So when you have the physical tools that he has and also the left arm that he has, I think he flashes in this game. I really do. The Auburn social teams put out a couple of videos as well around what he's done during spring practice. He's got some different to him. Another true freshman. That's something that I really want to see, and I hope that Auburn gives him a little bit of a late whistle too, and we get to see him flex the Jets a little bit. Maybe get out the back door a little bit, quarterback keeper, or maybe he's got a little play breaks down around the outside, and he scrambles for a nice little 20-plus yard gain. I'm just thinking here, right? Little spring game wish list here if I'm talking about Auburn. Now, we know what that wide receiver room can be. I'm curious to see who's playing what role because Eric Singleton, I've been told, they're using him like where's Waldo, bro? Like he could be anywhere. He might be in the slot. He could be out wide. You could put him anywhere else in the formation. Like he is going to be an absolute problem for defenses here. I'm really excited to see what the current flavor of the day is so far during spring practice. But it's not a thing where I'm just excited about him being a Swiss Army knife and how they get the football to him. I'm excited to see what he is in terms of opening other guys up. Because when you got to worry about Eric Singleton in the slot and you also got Cam Coleman on the outside, it could be the extra ingredient that just kind of makes the whole offense work. I've told this story before on this show, but I'll tell it again. When my wife and I are dating, I am making her on Valentine's Day some shrimp scampi, all right? A little pasta, a little shrimp, it's a good vibe. But for the sauce, you got to have butter, dude. If you don't have butter, it doesn't work. And so, lo and behold, get to making the meal. I'm like, shoot, I don't have any butter. Meal wasn't going to work. So what do? Run to the grocery store, get some butter. It ends up being great. Maybe Eric Singleton's the butter. That's what I'm saying here. Maybe he's that extra ingredient you add to the offense, and it just makes this whole thing go off without a hitch. Now you need the quarterback to do their thing, but I do think that Eric Singleton adds a lot of extra, oh, shoot, we got a game plan for him too when you talk about what Auburn's going to be on offense 2025. Now, the secondary for Auburn, very talented. I just want to see them compete. And that sounds kind of lame to say. You talk about a spring game. I want to see them go toe-to-toe with the monstars that is the Auburn receiving room because, quite frankly, man, they won't play a tougher receiver room all year. Now, Bama's going to be good. I think Georgia will be good. People say this a lot when you talk about I'm not a baseball guy, but I hear people talk about baseball. Talk a lot about, a good pitcher and a good batter going back and forth. And people would give the batter credit for like a good foul tip. Oh, hey, he made contact there. He connected with that one. That's tough to do against that pitcher. Kind of how I feel about the Auburn secondary. Let's make some contact. Let's foul tip a few. Just be in position, win some battles. Because if you can win some battles against this wide receiver room, I feel pretty good about you the rest of the way when it comes to who you have to play against. So some predictions for this one. I think you see the wide receivers have a great day. I think the Eric Singleton effect feels real. The biggest takeaway that I think we'll leave with from Auburn and from the spring game is I think you see the one offense finally look how they're supposed to look under Hugh Freeze. Not saying it's perfect, not saying it's a finished product, but I think you see what they are in the A-Day and say, okay, that's what we expected when Hugh Freeze took the job. Okay, now it's finally feeling like we have what we need to run the system we were promised when he became the head coach at Auburn. A lot of good stuff from Auburn, man. We'll keep it locked over at Auburn Live for all the intel. We'll, of course, have a reaction for you after that game as well. So the Georgia spring game is going to be a lot of fun. We're dialed into that one as we are with every single spring game, but there's a lot to unpack with this one. Gunnar Stockton and what he is in that quarterback battle versus Ryan Puglisi, the wide receiver room. We'll talk about all that. Before we do that, though, one, Georgia fans, make sure you are subscribed. If you want more Georgia content, the best way to let us know that is by subscribing to this channel because we get to see who subscribed to what video, supply and demand. You catch my drift. We want to meet the supply with your demand. So go ahead and bring that to us. Now, really excited to let y'all know the Hard Count is brought to you by Culver's, presented by Culver's. If you follow the Hard Count and you follow the On3 YouTube channel, you know Andy and Ari On3 do a phenomenal job. I'm super pumped to let y'all know that Andy and Ari On3 will be coming to you live from the draft in Green Bay. That's Thursday, April 24th, through Friday, April 25th. All right, and be set up real nice outside the famous frozen tundra of Lambeau Field at the Culver's Great Wisconsin Tailgate. Born in Wisconsin, Culver's is the home of the legendary Butterburger, fresh frozen custard, and Wisconsin cheese curds. There's no better rep of America's Dairyland. They'll have some special guests too. So throughout the draft, won't want to miss it. Stay tuned. More details and get ready for a weekend of fun made fresh with our friends at Culver's. So if you understand, there's a Culver's at the draft, Andy and Ari at the draft. Have to believe Georgia. They made a routine of being at the draft as well. But make sure you're dialed in there, man. A lot of good stuff coming from Andy and Ari on 3. What I want to see in the spring game from Georgia, though, does the defense just look Georgia-ish? You know what I mean? Like, does the defense look how they've looked in the past? And typically they're linebacker-led. So Raylan Wilson, want to see what he brings to the table. Been told it's a Raylan Wilson football team in terms of who's the leader of that whole organization. Kind of lines up with what you think about those previous national title teams from Georgia. A linebacker is usually one of the centerpieces of that whole thing. But it's tough in a spring game to get a gauge for this. And we've said it a couple times throughout this show, but I'll just double down here. I think you can tell how Georgia looks on defense more so from an eye test and a feel perspective than any sitting down and counting up the numbers of tackles and what the offense did on the scoreboard. Kind of like a good barbecue restaurant. You just know it when you see it. Like if you're driving by and you see a pig on a wooden sign outside of a barbecue joint, you're like, hey, pull over. That thing's going to be awesome. Or you see smoke coming out the top of it and it's like a flat roof and it's like, looking like a hole-in-the-wall spot. Stop. It's going to be really good. Menu written on brown construction paper. It's going to be a good thing. Pull over. Same thing with Georgia. Do we see them flying to the football, see a couple pops, guys in positions? I wouldn't be mad at a couple interceptions from the group as a whole. Like that's what I want to see because that's when Georgia, I think, has been at their best. So does the Georgia linebacker unit kind of lead that charge? What I'm watching in the spring game. Now, Gunnar Stockton, does he have the chops throwing the ball downfield? I think he's he is the most polished of this group, having been in the system the longest. But I don't think you question Gunnar Stockton and his mobility and his toughness and all those things. The question is, does he add that same element that Carson Beck added, which is we can legitimately spray the ball around the yard should we have to. Now, last year, you had to a little bit more than you wanted to, but I think that's the one question people have around Gunnar Stockton is what is he as a thrower of the football in terms of throwing like those deep ball throws? Would love to see that from him. There's a great TV show. I don't know if they still have it on the air. Was a great TV show called How Do I Look? I think it was on the Style Network. Essentially, it's a show where people get made over, and you have them from before and after, and they give them this big reveal once you get to see what their new look is. What's the new look for the Georgia receiver room? How does the Georgia receiver room look? Is what I'm questioning here. We got some big time transfers. Zachariah Branch, Noah Thomas. How much juice do they have? Are they just added pieces to what we already had a year ago, or is it no? We're ramping this thing up. Zachariah Branch, I already told you, I think he's going to lead the team in receptions in 2025. Curious to see how they use him. Is it the jet sweep? Is it the pop pass, the bubble screen? I want to see that. Noah Thomas, that dude's like legit 6'5". Go up and get it kind of target for you. Do we see some of that? I won't be mad at a little red zone fade for Noah Thomas. I think that probably warrants something the crowd in Athens would like to see. In addition to that, outside of the portal, you also hit the you hit the wide receiver position pretty hard at the high school level. Which one of these wide receivers can help us now is my question. I think they'll all be good players, but Talon Taylor is the one that's made the most buzz throughout spring camp. What does he look like? Also, who's he rolling with? That's something that I'm really intrigued by. Now, I don't think we get a definitive answer on either of these throughout the spring game, but I do think we get a chance to have a gauge. That's kind of what the spring game is for. So our predictions now for this spring game out there in Georgia, I think we get to see Noah Thomas and Colby Young on the field together, and that's just going to be hilarious with the size they have. The big is back for Georgia on the outside, 6'5" and like 6'3", 6'4" from Colby Young. That's going to be a problem for defenses. I love that. Freshman Bo Walker has been talked about all spring. I think he has a situation where there's smoke, there's fire. I think he does some things in the spring game that make you say, oh, yeah, that looks different. Oh, yeah, that's something that can help us here, to help us have the run game reemerge here in 2025. At best, he helps you. At worst, good depth. But the Hard Count Herald, man, the headline on Monday when you crack that thing open is going to be that Gunner's that guy. Isn't it a thing now where when players get a chance to wait their turn at Georgia, it's very rare they get a chance to start and they're not ready. Like Gunnar Stockton's waited his turn. Been on campus for over 3 years now. He's going to be ready for his moment. And I don't think it's a thing where we leave and say, wow, Gunnar Stockton can make all the throws. He totally flashed. He's got all this extra juice. Maybe we do. I just think it's a thing where he's in the most command. And that's not a shot at Ryan Puglisi. I think Ryan Puglisi's time will eventually come, but I just think we leave the spring game, and it's not a thing where Gunnar Stockton is like named the starter after the game. But remember that game where, the GDA, I should say, where it's Carson Beck, it's Brock Vandergriff going back and forth all spring. Spring game happens. We're all like, oh, it's going to be Carson Beck. I think it's the same vibe from Gunnar Stockton. Oh, it's going to be Gunnar Stockton's job. No questions. That's my feel on it, but the Georgia spring game will be a blast. Lock in. We'll have a reaction for you afterwards. Now, not a spring game this weekend, but the Oregon Ducks delivering us some sweet propaganda, man. Some gorgeous propaganda. Dakorien Moore, 5-star, true freshman wide receiver, early enrollee, been on campus for a half a second. He's making plays here. Go ahead and check this out. Dakorien Moore, slow motion on his Trey Songz deal, levitates, catches it, 2 feet down. We're good on Sundays. I get it. It's a lot from little. It's textbook propaganda. It's go check the dictionary. Propaganda. That's what you get from us on the spring side of things. We're going to break this thing down, though. Classic a lot from a little. Before we do that, though, I want to make sure y'all know the hard count brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. I get it, man. College football around the corner. We got to be dialed in here to make sure we get the best tickets at the lowest prices. Okay, so while we're waiting for college football to get here, you got Major League Baseball happening. You got NBA happening. Game Time is going to make sure you are locked and loaded and have all your needs met when it comes to the ticket buying side of things. Phenomenal job by them. They give you this little know before you buy feature on the app, so you can, virtually sit down in your seat and say, you know what? I can see the home plate from here. I like this spot. You know what? I wish I was a little more towards the outfield. You know what? I'm not behind the Jumbotron. I like this. Game Time gets you that insurance before you even buy your ticket. So lock in with them. That's great stuff by them. So if you hear nothing else from me about this, I want to save you some money. So hear this. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code HARDCOUNT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code HARDCOUNT, HARDCOUNT, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Game Time, they got you covered. All right, so lock in with Game Time. Great stuff by them, making sure we get to where we want to get to. Doesn't matter if it's last minute. Game Time, got you locked in. So like I was saying, classic, a lot from the little here. Let's check out this clip one more time, Kato, if we can, when it comes to Dakorien Moore. Again, slow motion, levitate, 2 hands, snatch it away from the defender. Great throw. We'll get to that in a second. Okay, so I get it slow motion, but hear me clearly. Looks like a team period or 7-on-7. I see a running back in the frame there, so it's not just one-on-one, not just a one-on-one win, which a lot harder to win when you got an actual secondary against you than it is when you got one DB. Food for thought. Also, if you look at that clip, he's in the air for a split second, which if you're levitating in the air, that makes me think the ball's in the air for a certain amount of time as well, which makes me think now this wasn't just some check down out route to Dakorien Moore. I think it was probably a vertical-ish kind of throw. Also, the DB he's against there, Kingston Lopa, played some last year, right? He's number 2 on the roster, rangy guy. They used him in the Big Ten title game against Tyler Warren, so make of that as you will. He's not just out here balling against some other early enrollee. He's actually, early enrollee at Oregon is still good talent, but you hear what I'm saying. There's some experience up against there, that defensive back. Bottom line, if this is what Dakorien Moore is going to be for Oregon, if we get more of that from him in the fall and he ends up being a guy that's right away ready to rock and roll, that's huge for Oregon, dude. That's huge for a number of reasons. One, you lose Tez Johnson, who was just a production, he's first team all production essentially for Oregon the last couple of years. 2, Evan Stewart is going to be able to shift back to his most natural position in the slot. And so if you have to worry about Evan Stewart in the slot eating, Dakorien Moore eating, and you got a guy in Dante Moore who can deliver the football consistently, you're going to be in real good shape. Like, it's also, I think, a testament to Will Stein that Dakorien Moore, and Dan Lanning, quite frankly, testament to those guys that Dakorien Moore is even at Oregon in the first place. Because Dakorien Moore isn't like just down the street hanging out in Portland. He's a dude from Texas. You had to go into the Lone Star State and win his commitment over schools like Texas, like LSU. Like that's a big-time win from Oregon football. In addition to that, I don't think you land Dakorien Moore if you don't have the proof of concept at receiver already. given the past couple of years. I mentioned Tez Johnson, Troy Franklin as well. Like, Oregon is, I think, slowly but surely becoming a wide receiver destination because you know you're going to get targets, put up good numbers, win a lot of games, have good stats. Like, it checks a lot of boxes here when it comes to playing at the next level. So when we look at that clip, though, I think it's also worth asking the question, where'd that ball come from? Now, there's no way to know, but I would just say this. It came from somewhere, and I feel pretty confident that Dante Moore is also going to be more than ready to make a throw like that. It was a good spot. It was a great catch. But all I'm saying is I think that more to more, whether that throw was from Dante Moore or not, that's going to be a thing that's in effect. All right, you're going to see some of that here in 2025. So I think we see more of that actually in the fall. I think Dakorien Moore has a role from day one, like it sounds he is right now during spring practice. But some spring propaganda, a lot from a little. We love it. We inhale it. We enjoy it. And we know y'all do too. So thank you, too. A lot of y'all tagged us in that clip on the socials. So keep doing that, man. Send your propaganda our way. We'll break it down. It's a beautiful thing that is spring football. But Dakorien Moore, looking like a 5-star. We can gather right now on the Oregon socials, and we're all the way here for it. Now, one more spring game to break down here. Notre Dame. They're going to be playing 2 Eastern on Saturday on Peacock. Quarterback battle. A recurring theme here on this show. Who moves the offense the best at quarterback? Is it Steve Angeli? Is it CJ Carr? Is it Kenny Menchie? And I think during the spring, we kind of fall in love with skill sets, and we fall in love with measurables and all those things. And I'm kind of just like, man, I don't know that I care about that quite as much in 11 on 11 here. It's kind of like, when you're at a party, I don't really care so much about your education. I don't really care about, who you're associated with socially. It's just like, who can keep the conversation going, dude? We're all here for the next hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on, what kind of party you're at. If you're at Cato's birthday party, maybe it's 3-4 hours. I don't know. But the bottom line is, like, I don't care, about your education all that much or all those other things I mentioned. Like, who can tell a funny joke and keep us entertained here as we keep this night going? Who can keep the offense going? I'm not worried about who can throw the prettiest football. Time for that is over. Who can move the offense? Because you look at Notre Dame last year, wasn't that kind of what Riley Leonard did? I get he's going to have a chance to go make some noise in the NFL, and we wish him all the best. I think he's, first-team all-program guy, quite frankly, with how he went about his business post-NIU for Notre Dame. But there wasn't anything, like, enormously special about Riley Leonard when it came to how he threw the ball downfield. What did he do, though? Kept the offense rolling by any means. Had to make a throw downfield? He can do that for you. Run the football? He can do that for you. Get out of trouble and keep a play alive, throw it away? He can do that for you. So I think when you talk about what you're watching for this quarterback race, I'd worry about who can get touchdowns, right? It sounds simplistic, but I think that's the case because if you get touchdowns for Notre Dame as the quarterback, your defense is going to get stops. I don't think you need to average 40 a game to get back to where you were a season ago. It'd be nice, but if you can get us in the end zone, let that defense work, we're in good shape. Now, Steve Angeli, we've said before, think he's leader in the clubhouse. With that being said, we're grading him a little bit on a tougher scale in this spot for the sheer fact of the matter that, like, he should be leader in the clubhouse. He has been around longer. He does have in-game experience. Like, you're seeing B-roll from my guy right now from actual games being played. This guy's not showing up here bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. He's been around the block a time or two. All right, so his time is now. And with it being your time now, Steve Angeli, I want to see it look like your time now. So what my I guess thing I'm asking for from Steve Angeli is like, dude, go get it. Go get this job. Don't have us sitting here on Monday morning talking about, man, did Steve Angeli do enough? I don't know. A couple of picks makes me nervous. This thing's wide open. Don't have that be the discussion. No, he's been there. He's been here the longest. He's got some real credentials to his resume. He moved the offense. He looked the best. Okay, let's do. Don't win this job based off keep away, Steve Angeli, is what I'm trying to say here. Now, CJ Carr, the thing I'm looking for him, does he look like someone you can give the car keys to? Not literally, though. That'd be nice as well. Does he look like someone who can keep us from having those negative plays? Again, this is boring. This is simplistic. This is cliche. It's real. It's 100% real. The only games that Notre Dame lost last year, the NIU game, you lost that because Riley Leonard threw 2 picks. CJ Carr, don't get the ball away. Because nobody's questioning his talent, dude. He's got a lot of juice when it comes to his, scouting report and his measurables and the way he throws the ball. All those things, like that is CJ Carr to a T. He's going to win the beauty contest 10 times out of 10. But again, it's about, can you keep us on track, on schedule, and get the ball to these freaking playmakers, dude? If you can do that, you're going to have a chance. But if you can't, then we got a guy in Steve Angeli who we think can. It's all about how far along CJ Carr is relative to his ceiling and how far along that is relative to where Steve Angeli is and how much you trust him. So the negative plays is what I think I'm really going to harp on for CJ Carr when we get here to Monday, talking about the spring games and all that and like. Now, Kenny Minchey, how is he used in the spring game is curious to me. If I'm Kenny Minchey, I go to Marcus Freeman's office before this whole thing starts and say, Coach, keep that red jersey. I want to go live. Say, Kenny, you're a quarterback. I don't want you getting hit. Coach, I don't care. That's my differentiating factor in this battle, is I can get you some extra juice on 3rd and 7. You can call 3rd and Kenny. I can go pick you up a first down. No disrespect to CJ Carr or Steve Angeli. I'm different, dude. Some extra juice here. I'd love to see that for him and from him. And I don't really question so much if he deserves a role. I just think it's a matter of, like, how do you end up getting him involved there? I think it's a thing where the quarterback run game was so good to you a year ago, it'd be foolish to not involve him. But obviously it's going to be a thing where him throwing the football downfield has to factor in as well. But, like, I'd love, for his sake, for him to be live during the spring game. I think that gives him a little bit of an extra edge here in this battle. Now, the wide receiver room is going to be talked about a lot here in the fall. How do they look in the spring, though? Like, I think that last year, especially in the playoff race, you saw that receiver room have a little bit more giddy up and go than we even thought. Like, Jaden Greathouse was awesome in those final 2 games for you. Had his best games of his entire season at Notre Dame against Penn State and Ohio State. In this offense in 2025, with what I think you'll have at quarterback, you're going to lean on them even more. Do they look in the spring game like a group that can be leaned on? Jeremiah Love, you know what he is at running back. The quarterback, you're still figuring out. Offensive line, you feel great about. Defense, you feel great about. What do they look like, though, at receiver? Do they have that horsepower that you think you have in the room? That's what I want to track, because you're probably not factoring in as much of your quarterback's legs, though I told you I think Kenny Minchey should have a role. I don't think it's quite to the same degree that Riley Leonard had a year ago. But regardless, I think Mike Denbrock wants to stretch the ball downfield, and I think Notre Dame's got the guys to do it. Do we see it in the spring game? That's what I'd like to see. Now, the Young Bucks on defense is what I'm really focusing on the other side of the football. There's no question about the talent level for Notre Dame. That's a testament to Marcus Freeman and the way they've recruited. I think you're going to be sitting there on Saturday watching the spring game if you're an Irish fan and say, you know what, this looks very familiar. Yeah, we lost Xavier Watts. Yeah, we lost Jack Kaiser, but we still got some dudes on this team, man. So the question isn't so much the top end for Notre Dame. To me, it's more so the lower end. And lower end is the wrong way to say it, but like Jaden Blair, Madden Faramo, what do they look like? Who are they rolling with? Because they could play some this year, man. I've been told they've been balling during the spring. I'd love to see them flash during the spring as well in the spring game and just feel more confident about those guys having some rotation, having some depth there. Because, I mean, Chris Ash is going to call the defense. I'm not really all that worried about how it looks, dude. I'm really not. Like, even if the Notre Dame defense looks shaky, I say, okay, great. The offense should be awesome then. Because Notre Dame defense, as long as Marcus Freeman is in charge, we're going to be able to win a lot of football games because of our defense. I don't think that's something he's just turning away. So the prediction for this game for us, I think that you open the Hard Count Herald on Monday. The headline reads, Steve Angeli rolls, baby. Shout out Cato for the headline there, dude. Steve Angeli rolls. Say it however you want to say it. I think he draws a line in the sand, and he just essentially says, if you want this quarterback job, Kenny Minchey, if you want this quarterback job, CJ Carr, you got to come take it from me. Because I'm not just going to stay stagnant and be a statue back here and have this be the way that this whole thing goes as I wait for y'all to close the gap. No, I think CJ Carr and Kenny Minchey probably have good days, but I think Steve Angeli pops, and I think that he puts a more sizable gap between him and the other quarterbacks, and we'll leave there saying, okay, it's probably going to be probably going to be Steve Angeli. It's probably going to be Mr. Angeli rules. So that'll be a lot of fun, but we'll have a reaction for you. Irish fans, lock in, subscribe, and we'll keep talking some ball here as we move forward throughout the beautiful part of the year that is spring football. That will eventually be summer 1, summer 2. Before you know it, man, we'll have fall camp intel. So make sure you're locked in. Make sure you are subscribed. All right, now, fired up, man. We got another GM All Access powered by Teamworks here. This time, talking about Texas, man. Brandon Harris is the GM out there, and I think it's very, very easy when you are breaking down Texas from a roster construction side, from a recruiting side, from a portal side, and be pretty lazy with how we assess them. Pretty easy to just say, you know what, got pretty good NIL resources, right? They got some pretty good brand power, right? Texas, GM, Schmeam, they're probably pretty good. They probably just have guys come to them. Y'all, Brandon Harris, I'm just saying, I think he does some work on the recruiting trail. So, really quickly before we get to the rest of the segment. Got to let y'all know, man. A little quick helmet change. If you watch this show, you know it. You love it. GM All Access. Put her there, man. Powered by Teamworks. All right? So, win the revenue sharing era with Teamworks General Manager, purpose-built for collegiate athletics, trusted by 99% of D1 NCAA institutions. Teamworks is uniquely designed by those who understand the challenges of college athletics, strategically allocate resources, optimize investments, evaluate your roster, and build championship caliber teams, all on one integrated platform. Check out teamworks.com/general-manager to learn more. General-manager at Texas, again, Brandon Harris. So what I was saying was, when you break down Texas, it's easy to just say, oh, the logo, oh, the money. You know, in Tier 1 of college football, don't most teams have a great logo and great resources? Doesn't the Oregon logo hold some weight? Phil Knight money probably pretty good. Ohio State, same deal. We talk about the $20 million roster. That logo speaks for itself. Texas had the #1 ranked recruiting class this past cycle. Why? I think in some ways you credit the relational skill set of Brandon Harris. I think you do credit Steve Sarkisian the proof of concept. But like, to me, when we talk about Tier 1 in college football, it's kind of like deciding where you want to go for your birthday dinner. I can get a good steak anywhere, dude. I can go a lot of different places, get a good vibe, get a great steak, and be in great shape there. So what makes the difference for you? How do you feel? What's the feeling you get when you walk in that place? How's the service? How's the interaction with the people? I think that's Brandon Harris, dude. What I've been told is the dude just straight up wins when it comes to relationships. Personable. When they get on campus, they being recruits, that's when Texas is like, okay, we got him where we want him. Okay, now we can really take it to the next level. Because you know what Texas is, man. You know the proof of concept with the NFL draft picks at this point recently. You know the college football playoff credentials. You know the momentum on the field and all those things and what they're going to be here under Steve Sarkisian. You know all that. But when you look at what Texas is as a recruiting machine, what separates them from what I can gather from what I've heard is Brandon Harris with the relational side. But also now, in addition to that, Brandon Harris as a GM has a somewhat unique background in the sense that he was actually, before he was a GM, he was a college football player not that long ago. Like, Brandon Harris was a top 5 quarterback recruit. Brandon Harris also, throughout the course of his career, transferred from LSU to North Carolina. So all that's to say, he's able to relate to these players on a different level. Like when Brandon Harris talks about the transfer portal and why guys leave different schools, or you know, if he's talking to a recruit that's in the transfer portal and says, hey, here's why you could come to Texas and have success. I've been there. I've done that. I know what it's like to have a tough decision to make. He's not just, you know, saying that as lip service. It's not fake with Brandon Harris. And I think in modern college football, it has never been more obvious for players and families and just, I mean, everyone involved to be able to spot fake from a mile away because there's so much of it. That's why Brandon Harris is successful. He's not fake. He's real. What you see is what you get. And you pair all that with what Texas has, that you like kind of stereotypically throw their way with the power, the resources, all those things. That's where things really start to separate for Texas. That's why they end up having the #1 class in college football on the recruiting trail this past cycle. Does money have a good amount to do with it? I'm sure it does. But it also has a good amount to do with it with every single high-profile recruitment. So Brandon Harris, absolute stud for Texas, continuing to be a stud, and Texas, surprise, surprise, killing it on the recruiting trail, and you feel good about yourself for the future on the recruiting trail because of who's in charge of the GM spot, and Brandon Harris in charge of things at Texas, and future is bright out there on the 40 acres. Hey, I'm super, super pumped here for this upcoming spring game Saturday, man. And we're going to kind of simulate our own spring game college football Saturday on this side of things. So if you want to watch your College Game Day or Big Noon rerun via YouTube, go do that. Games start at noon, Eastern that is. Lock in and enjoy this, man. This is the closest thing we get to college football until August. So soak it in, enjoy it, and make sure that you get yourself a rep here when it comes to your own college football Saturday. For Cato on the 1s and 2s, doing the hard count Harold, making everything you see here happen, and for y'all making this show what it is. Very, very grateful to have y'all watching the show and to allow us to do this for a little. For myself, Jody Patel, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We will keep this party rolling. We will see y'all.